As a matter of due diligence, as a matter of ethics and responsibility to the ascending community, to those who have made it through this blood moon and pierced the veil, and they have made the decision, they have willfully projected their consciousness into this reality that they will be sovereign and that they shall seek truth over illusion. And as a matter of responsibility to the ascending collective, I want to clarify a little bit about some of these images I've been sharing and perhaps some of this image persona type of so on and so forth of some kind of dark magi and talking about the dark triad. So referring to this image, I want to just basically provide some clarification. And essentially, clarification can be understood as from the perspective of the eternal witness. In the Vedic sciences, this is known as the Atman, that still small voice, that presence. This is the still small voice of God. That when you're engaged in activities in this dimension, most people are following the illusions of the ego because your personality is irrelevant when you're listening to the voice of God, to the voice of the soul, to your soul urgings, to the directions, to the life directions of your soul. So the dark triad in psychology, which these narcissism, psychopathy, Machiavellianism, these typically are personality traits that you don't necessarily you're revealing, much less bragging about or sharing or discussing. But if you are honest with yourself, okay, everybody to one degree or another, to one degree of consciousness or unconsciousness, these personality traits, this dark triad operates. However, what I'm attempting to do and share and clear up is extracting the energetic principle behind each trait and reintegrating these maladaptive personality traits to the higher octave, to the next highest octave of existence. Okay? Because we are admitting that these energies exist within us. And the more that we uncover the shadow, some people are ruled by these and they will never ever change. But the more that you shed light into these energies, the more that these distinctions matter, the more that this God force pyramid becomes a coherent metaphysical structure. And that is what we're looking at, the God force pyramid. And this is a model of integration. And at the apex, we have the monad. This is your soul perspective, the eye of God. The Atman in Vedic sciences, Brahman from the Upanishads. This is absolute unity, pre-dual awareness, self-knowing source. This is the voice of God. This is the voice of that I listen to. I don't listen to voices. I certainly at this point am able to differentiate between ego illusions. And yes, those voices come along. There are external influences as well in the electromagnetic spectrum. We're surrounded by these energies. Some of them are disembodied, some of them are technological 5G towers. But if you are firmly anchored in the apex, in the monad, that is where your consciousness resides. And as it filters down, this is narcissism. This is the true archetypical narcissism. Okay, this is not ego inflation, but primordial self recognition. Consciousness becoming aware of itself. And the healthy expression is self reflection, sovereign identity, the capacity to say, I am. Distorted expression is grandiosity, fragile ego, need for external validation, so on and so forth. The monad observes itself. Polarity arises, the dyad is born. This is the duality, the tension of existence. But just one quick comment on the God force. When you operate from the monad, even though you're not operating from your ego, you're going to experience that other people are going to think of you as an egotistical bastard. No, when you just mind your own business, when you can see through people's illusions, when you realize that your vibration and your energy triggers other people, literally by your mere presence and the light you carry to whatever degree that is, you actually trigger demons, the demonic, and those who are beholden to those low vibration energies, they cannot be around you. I've experienced that. So I'm perceived because of my path, solitary path, I'm probably perceived as an asshole. But see, they shall be separated in these end of days. They shall be separated. You shall come out from them and separate yourself. And so we move on down the pyramid, this God force pyramid. Observer, observed, alpha and omega, the dyad, polarity, duality. And so we're looking at the opposites, alchemical opposites described in the Kabbalion: vibration, polarity, rhythm. And this word psychopathy in its transmuted form, in its pathological form, is emotional detachment, lack of empathy. In the higher octave, which is what we're reaching for, which is what we're ascending towards, capacity for decisive action without analysis, or rather to be paralyzed. Recognizing situations that are not energetically compatible or that do not resonate with you. This is mastery of the astral. This is astral dominion. When people talk about the astral, it's essentially, you interpret it is filtered down through your emotions. It is conterminous. The astral realm is conterminous with your emotional hygiene, your emotional health. If your third eye is active, yes, you'll be able to, images will be attached to those emotions. A lot of people get lost in that. I've had people mention that, talk about that. Yeah, the astral, it's real. It's as real as much as you want to invest in it. It's tied to your emotions. And so I'm sure when you're minding your own business, operating from your monad, you 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 create you operate. At least I do. I operate from a type of psychopathy, meaning I dispassionately observe people, read their energies, frequencies, and there's no one that I'm compatible with where I live around except for my dog. I mean, I'm friendly with some people that I have to be with business, some of the stores around here, but by and large, I am a solitary magus, and and I operate as a psychopath because I'm evaluating, determining, and I stay in my higher octave. So that's the higher octave. Okay. I'm not expressing rage or my ego that doesn't lead me to situations or any of that. In the past, before I polarized, which we are in the dimension of choice, this is the time of choice. The veil has been lifted. You have made your decisions on your path at this point with this blood moon. If you're all caught up in the outside drama, then you're going to be sucked into that. If you have stayed your path, whatever that may be, for the Umbanda New Elohim Ashram, we are dedicated to consciousness studies and the expansion thereof and the sharing with todos los entes del mundo. But we don't get it wrong. Don't get it twisted, though. We don't mess with Texas. I'm not trying to hear any of your bullshit. Okay, people? You got your own images, you got your own issues, your own astral psychopathy to deal with, but don't try to come project it onto me because I will untwist it really quick for you. Real quick. All right? So this path has been chosen for the Umbanda New Elohim Ashram. We are committed to consciousness expansion, and I offer this video in furtherance thereof. Healthy expression in this capacity is fearlessness. Walk like a lion. Oh, yeah, I live in a high crime area, but I don't go strutting around like I'm Billy Badass. I just go through fifth dimensional portals of peace that my high vibration creates. Yeah, I've had fools come step up to me, but they can't figure it out. I'm calm. I look them in the eye, I might smile, or I might just not even acknowledge them. That freaks them out. But steadily inside, I'm in the fifth dimension. Tai Chi master. Now, distorted expressions are cruelty, impulsivity, exploitation, Andrew Tateness. Most people are at the lower octave of these dark triad energies. Most of the world is at that. But this is the time of the great sorting, the wheat from the chaff. Okay, the higher Elohim intelligences, they're looking, they're scanning vibrations. And so the wheat and the worlds are being separated. Without detachment, there's no action. Without action, there's no manifestation. And then so we go on down the God Force pyramid. We have mercury, sulfur, salt, mercury. These are alchemical terms. These are symbolic. And it is through your own application of manas, what it, in Vedic sciences, manas is mind, your discriminatory mind, to learn these symbols. Mercury, mind, reflection, sulfur, will, drive. Salt, form, stability. These are conterminous with the ceremonial elements, elements of ceremonial magic. But in the archetypical Machiavellianism, the transmuted form, this is what we're at the higher octave, this strategic orchestration. So this is what we're committed to. This is what, on this blood moon energy, which we have committed to. Long-term planning, pattern recognition, tactical intelligence. These types of energies, as you will see, we're probably right now, the war phase of tribulation is ramping up. And all of this year, you're going to see this in the third dimension, but it's going to reverberate through every aspect of our reality because of people who, whatever stage they're in with their energy management, it all trickles down, you know. So, but yeah, we're up in the ramping up phase to 2027 tribulation period. And there is the war phase of that, which is at the onset. This is going to be the wake-up call for everybody. You will see the fires of the chaos, but if you're not anchored, if you don't have not achieved the higher octave, these fires will conflagrate, and they will take many people along with them. That's what this is all about, is to separate the wheat from the chaff. But this is where magic becomes architecture rather than impulse. And moving down to the base, we have fire, air, water, earth, the four elements, the classical elements I mentioned earlier. But see, these are symbolic, right? Fire is will. Okay, Agni in the Vedic sciences, will. Air is your intellect. Water, emotion. Earth is manifestation. This base of the pyramid. And at this level, the dark triad energies are either integrated, like your fire, your will, you don't have an anger problem, or you intellect, any of these things that are in balance. That is what this path is about ultimately, is balancing your path and creating the personality of the Magi. Mastering time and space, mastering manifestation. All of these integration, these powers create sovereignty. If not, they're destructive shadow, narcissistic egos and such will feed upon each other because that's all they will have to feed upon. So in this image that I'm sharing, which is conterminous, has symbols of hermeticism, alchemical systems. We're looking at Mercury as the mediator, the bridge between above and below. Okay? So, or rather, as it states in the Emerald Tablets, as above, so below. The monad at the top is projection, your higher self, your plasmatic, energetic, eternal self projects down into this lower physical realm. And then we have the dyad, polarity and motion, triad, strategic structuring. And then we have finally the four elements is embodiment. So I shared these images. They're skulls, and they may look dark and whatnot, and they do reference dark triad symbolisms. But without integration, these are indulging harmful traits. With integration, you reclaim the raw energy underneath these distortions. Narcissism becomes self-awareness. Psychopathy is courageous detachment. Machiavellianism is strategic intelligence. And without integration, dear viewer, these operate unconsciously. With integration, they become disciplined faculties. This is what Jungian shadow work is all about. This is where you shine a light through knowledge, through study, through practice, through habits, meditation, so on and so forth, reflections, a light into your unconsciousness. That is the darkness that we're referring to, is your own unconscious energies. This pyramid is unity of being. Essentially, it amounts to unity of being at the top, polarity, movement, strategy, organization, and embodiment, which is our reality, your reality, whatever the quality of your reality is. This is the magical cosmology, the eternal projection of self, yourself, projecting the monad, God's will, projecting through ego. And so this is just a little bit of an explanation of these powers, these forces that I'm attempting to share with people. But consciousness, the eternal consciousness, magic as the projection of the self, the eternal projection of the self through magic is consciousness precedes and outlives form. Projection is thought, emotion, and intention that radiate outward as causal forces. The self, the true operator, is not ego, but the deeper observing witness. Cosmos, reality responds as a reflective field. And so, but these have different associations with different traditions. But in the Kabbalion, for example, the universe is described as mental in nature. The all is mind. In that framework, magic is the disciplined projection of consciousness into the fabric of reality. And then in other systems, and the thelemic systems, magic is defined as the science and art of causing change to occur in conformity with will. The self, through will, imprints its intention upon the cosmos. But your imagination, the mind, is the gatekeeper to your soul. If your emotions are in turmoil, if you allow your emotions to be preyed upon by other entities, whether they're bodied or embodied, or other technological electromagnetic phenomena, your imagination can be distorted. But magical work is the manipulation of subtle forces through trained imagination. And so this tool that I'm sharing, this image, is a tool to help you with your imagination. It has symbols to allow your mind to decipher. And that is essentially what this is all about. And of course, by me sharing these types of images, I'm going to be the subject of spiritual warfare, of from all sides, all angles. From it would be much safer to just play along and talk about Jesus with every video. Say, I worship Jesus. If you don't worship Jesus, you're going to hell. Well, because that's the wide path. But I'm not on the wide path. And of course, sharing these darker symbols, I'm going to have other people that are on this path. They're going to come try to test me. They're going to, so I'm getting it. I'm setting this up as a solitary practitioner because I do not want comfort in this life. I want warfare, but it is not warfare that is going to be handed to me from the third dimension in the Middle East and wherever. I want warfare of the mind that expands the consciousness and eternally projects my perfected, purified self into this cosmos. Because when I leave this physical body, I'm going to go and start my own universe. Believe that.